We got promoted from Tier 9 last season in the Tall Kings Challenge, where I can only sign players who are 6'4" tall and above. And now, I'm aiming for a second successive promotion with my team full of Gary Barlow's son-sized players. Of course, this is the second episode, so if you want to go back and see Season 1, I'll put it in the top pinned comment. So over the summer, we said goodbye to Jaheim White, who left us to play for AFC Vardinians. Nope, I've never heard of them either. We also saw several players retire, including the mainstay and captain of last year's team, Matthew Halliday, so a new defensive midfielder is on the shopping list for sure. But we also said hello to a lot of new signings, with the highlights being Andrew Palmer-Brown, who's a 6'4" centre-back with 16 jumping reach, formerly of Colchester United, but looking at his technical stats here, I think he could do a job at central midfield for us. That is one thing I've noticed with this challenge. A lot of the players tend to be goalkeepers and centre-backs, so I'm having to retrain quite a few centre-backs to fit our team into different positions. We also picked up 6'4", well-travelled journeyman forward Callum Hassan. He looks like he could do a good job for us with decent acceleration and pace, jumping reach along with decent work rate. At 31 years old, he had some experience to the team. Goalkeeper Marcus Bald joins us, having previously been on the books at Northampton. He's got some good technical stats for goalkeeping, and will likely be our first choice moving into the new season. So our season expectations from the board are to avoid relegation. But looking at the season preview, the media think we're good enough for a lower mid-table spot. And I find the media always tends to underestimate the player teams. They're clearly not accounting for my managerial genius. And for a little bit of extra spice this season, our local rival Biggleswade are also in this league. That's right, we're Biggleswade United, and they're just Biggleswade, like Prince, Madonna. They think they're so big. Time to find out who the big team in Biggleswade really is. But we really are putting the big into Biggleswade with our team full of giants, as we kick off the season in style with a 4-1 win against Thetford Town. This game was in the FA Cup round that is so preliminary that they had to call the round the extra preliminary round. And I'm choosing to see that as a positive. Thetford opened the scoring with a penalty, but centre-back and now midfielder in training, Andrew Palmer-Brown, put his 16 jumping reach to good use to head in an equaliser. Big Ollie Wilson picked up an injury seemingly by trying to do a slide tackle, but he fell onto his rear and sadly rocked back and forth on the pitch. But he needn't have worried, as Baker Moran was on hand to put us ahead with a tidy finish following some nice build-up play. Baker Moran then turned provider with a nice cross for new boy Callum Hassan to head in. Hassan then doubled his tally with a very nice half volley from just outside the area. We also scored 4 in the league game against Tame United in a game that saw 8 yellow cards and 1 red overall. Luckily, the red was for the opposition, as Brand was sent off for this challenge after picking up his second yellow. I honestly don't see what's wrong with this challenge, as he appears to be nowhere near Baker Moran, but hey, I'm not complaining. All 6'7" of big Vinnie McKendy tapped in to put us ahead. Last year's top scorer Baker Moran then reminds us just how important his goals will be again this year, with another tidy finish. Rob Davis, who we actually picked up last year, then converted not 1, but 2 penalties for us to make it 4. Davis is another centre-back who's currently being retrained to play elsewhere. We're going to try him out in defensive midfield to replace Matthew Halliday from last season, as we really do have a surplus of decent centre-backs, but we're somewhat lacking in the midfield department. We won all possible games in August, also progressing in the FA Trophy preliminary round. Notice that one's not extra. And we also continued our journey in the actual FA Cup with a 1-0 win over Binfield in the non-extra preliminary round, and then a 1-0 win over Leiston in the FA Cup first qualifying round. This was a pretty cagey and even game that saw us get the win thanks to a 22nd minute goal from Big Ollie Wilson, who's apparently bored of scoring with his head all the time and fancied banging in an absolute worldie of a free kick. You do you, Oliver. You do you. September saw us remain unbeaten, albeit dropping some points with a few draws. With us still going in the FA Cup and FA Trophy, it was a packed fixture list. Our best league result was a 1-0 win against Ware with a trademark header from Big Ollie Wilson, enough to secure the points. We got past Lowestoft Town in the FA Cup second qualifying round thanks to goals from Wilson and Baker Moran. We then had a 0-0 draw with Buxton, who are actually up in the heady heights of the National League North. We took them all the way to a replay and managed to run out a surprise 4-2 winners, which ought to help our poor bank balance out. We now sit with 18 grand in the bank, whereas we were about that much in the red at the start of the season, so it's really made a difference. Midfielder Jack Whitewick put us ahead after 9 minutes. As we wore our blue kits in this game, they pulled one back after some calamitous defending from us, saw the easiest of easy tap-ins fall for Lindley. Danger man Baker Moran was on hand to put us back in front from a corner. Whitewick showed some great technique to score a powerful volley for his second of the afternoon. Whitewick then set up Baker Moran, who put away this cheeky little effort to put the game beyond doubt. We sadly lost some headers in a messy scramble in the area following a corner to concede late on, but the game ended 4-2. So some sad news now, everybody. One of my favourite players from this save so far, Big Ollie Wilson, has decided to play elsewhere. He's gone to play for Leiston in the league above ours. He's played really well in the target man role for us and will be missed. I was pleased to see the feelings were reciprocated as I was listed under his favoured personnel. So who knows, we may not have seen the last of him. Unfortunately, we can expect to see a lot more of this season, as we still can't offer real contracts to people. So everybody is on a non-contract agreement and they're free to leave whenever they want. I can't wait to be able to sign people to proper contracts. All the more reason to get up these leagues as quickly as possible. We did loan in 17-year-old, 6'4" Michael Agimang from Banbury United, who will hopefully do a job up top. The plan for now is for Baker Moran to shift into the target man role, and Agimang or Hassan can play off him as the poacher. The league table currently looks like this. We're 7th, but just 5 points off the top spot, and we've got a game in hand. You'll notice the team at the top are actually Colney Heath, who got promoted with us last season. We are currently way down in 20th for possession with just 43%, just as we like it as we're playing Route 1 if you weren't aware. But interestingly, Colney Heath are actually rock bottom of the possession table and top of the league, so it just goes to show you possession isn't everything at this level. We're also currently top of the most important league of all, headers won, with a 64% ratio. Let's see if we can get that number a bit higher up over the course of the season. October was a mixed month. It started well enough, with us progressing in cup competitions. We ran out 4-2 winners against Kempston Rovers in the league. Callum Hassan bagged himself a perfect 10 rating in this match. We went behind after 22 minutes with a nice curling effort from outside the box, but we responded just before half-time with Hassan getting on the end of a lovely through ball from Baker Moran to tidily finish with a nice goal. Baker Moran then timed a run really well to put us ahead in the game. Just 1 minute later, some nice work from Hassan saw him nicely set up Baker Moran for his second of the game. They then clawed one back with a penalty, but Hassan earned his 10 rating with a thumping effort from outside the box, following a poor punch from the keeper. The front two are looking dangerous for us this season. Big Ollie who? We did lose 2-0 in the FA Trophy first round against St Ives Town, which was sandwiched between 2 draws in the league to end the month in a lacklustre fashion. November was a very interesting month for a number of reasons. Firstly, let's talk about the league. We saw our first local derby of the season against Biggleswade FC, in which we got the Biggleswade big bragging rights. Big Baker Moran banged in a beauty beyond the keeper to bring bragging rights to the big Biggleswade. Wait. This script is bearable. I've been terrible. I've been mean. Anyway, Baker Moran scored a wonderfully placed shot from distance to put us 1-0 up. Agimang then showed good movement and anticipation to get a goal just before half-time. He then got a header just after the hour mark to make it 3. Shout out to wing-back George Murphy, who assisted all 3 goals. I can't not mention the 8-0 win we got over Berkhamsted. Hassan scored an easy tap-in after 2 minutes. And in what could not be a more different goal, Palmer Brown scored a screamer from well outside the area to make it 2. Hassan headed in at the far post following a nice floated cross, just a minute later, before Davis converted a penalty on 40 minutes. Palmer Brown got his second, heading in from a corner. That man Palmer Brown was involved again with a ball over the top for Hassan to get onto to bag his hat-trick. He then got his 4th following a flick on from Baker Moran. Left wing back Holiday rounded out the scoring in the 91st minute by timing his run well and heading in to secure a big victory for us. In terms of cups, we got knocked out of the League Cup by Leatherhead in a 2-0 defeat, but we managed to get past Bradford Park Avenue in the FA Cup first round, which means we got a very big tie for us, as we got to take on League 1 Carlisle United in the second round to end the month. The professional outfit scored after just 5 minutes with this effort from Charters, but we did well to equalise in 17 minutes with Agimang looking sharp and capitalising on a defensive error to put the ball in the back of the net. We took them all the way to extra time, but their superior fitness ended up winning the day, with them scoring after 105 minutes to beat us 2-1. We more than held our own in the game, and we didn't look totally out of place. But let me talk to you about the money. We got 60k of TV money alone for the Carlisle tie. Our overall balance is just shy of 200k, which is absolutely huge for us, and should really be enough to keep us financially secure for a couple of seasons. Presuming our outgoing costs don't go up too much. In the league, we're currently second behind high-flying Aylesbury United. It's nice to see our local rivals Biggleswade FC firmly rooted to the bottom of the table as well. We're actually joint 18th with the other Biggleswade for possession, with a 45% average, and we're on top of the Headers 1 league still with a 54% ratio, but only just ahead of some of the other teams. We all know this is the important league table, and it's going to be a lot tougher this year. In other news, last season's first choice keeper Tim Brown left us to join Buxton in the Vanarama National League North. He had become second choice behind Marcus Bald, so we can't really blame him. We did sign 36-year-old, 6'5" Danny Rockier to replace him, I have told him to bring a cushion because he's basically just going to sit on the bench. December brought with it a top-of-the-table clash against Aylesbury, which we won in convincing fashion as we ran out 5-1 winners. 6'7" centre-back Lewis Soroff scored a far-post header from a corner to put us ahead, and he was there again to pick up on a loose ball following another corner to head in from close range for his and our second. They pulled one back with an all-too-easy tap-in following a header across the box, but Baker Moran turned well and picked out his finish to make it 3 for us. He then doubled his tally with a nice individual effort following a good run. Henman Mason put the cherry on top after arriving late in the box to capitalise on a loose ball. This was a big test for us today, but we passed it with flying colours. But we did then lose against last season's fellow promoted club Colney Heath as they convincingly beat us 2-0. But other than that, it was plain sailing in the league with us winning all of our other games. We rounded out the year with a 2-1 win over Rushton and Diamonds. Rushton and Diamonds, I remember them from back when I played CMO 102. They were a great project to do back then. I forgot they existed until just now. Baker Moran and Hassan got the goals for us in that one. We also signed a handful of young players to bolster our squad around this time, including what has to be the biggest player I've ever seen in this game. Check this guy out. So he is a new gen, and he's called Russell Durward. He's Canadian, and he's 6'11". He might be worth just putting on the pitch just for that 16 jump and reach alone. He was previously with Witham Town and doesn't have the best coach report, but I really hope he comes good because he's a proper giant. And now seems like a good time to review some individual performances. Baker Moran leads the club scoring charts with 18 goals, left wing back Charlie Holiday has 14 assists, and Palmer Brown has the most red cards with 2. Also, if you're still watching now, well, first of all, thank you very much, I really appreciate that. Leave a like if you're enjoying it, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and it'll really help push this out to more people. January brought with it a new contract, which we celebrated by losing 3-2 to Welland Garden City. Baker Moran put away a rebound to put us ahead in the game. They equalised with a header, which really stings, seeing as we're supposed to be a team full of giants. Foulstone then got himself sent off for us after throwing an elbow at the opposition player, according to the in-game text commentary. They took full advantage by scoring another header. At least we don't have to say they won a header against us, as this was a totally unchallenged free header at point-blank range. Which, now I'm saying it out loud, is actually worse. Palmer Brown broke through with 5 Welland players chasing behind him like some sort of Benny Hill sketch to equalise, but painfully they scored on 86 minutes to put the finishing touch to the game, as well as our New Year hangover. At least this goal wasn't a header. A high point of the month was a 4-0 win against Cirencester Town, where Baker Moran scored all 4 goals and bagged a well-deserved 10 match rating. The first goal was a header, which itself came from a headed cross. Alright guys, calm down, we've gone too far with the British hoofball now. Just remember, we can use our feet as well. Baker Moran's second was unsurprisingly a headed effort again, this time from a more traditional cross played in with a foot, if you can imagine such a thing. We then took a break from this game of headball to score a goal with something called a shot, from something called a kick, with something called a foot. Right guys, we're going to have to do some research on this to see if this using a foot thing is a viable option for us moving forward. Baker Moran then rounded out his perfect game by scoring from distance. He really is a great player for us. Another sad departure now. Owen Palmer left us. We're going to miss his 17 jump and reach. He's left to go and play for Burnham, and I'm pleased to report that I also made it onto his favoured personnel section. And while we're on this subject, our inbox is constantly full of messages about offers coming in for players. I mean, just look at this bit here on our transfer activity page. It's like this constantly. Thankfully, our players turned down the vast majority of offers, but I can't wait for real contracts to be a thing. The league table's looking pretty positive as we sit in second place behind Welland City, but comfortably in the playoff spots. It's nice to see the other Biggleswade still rock bottom, and Colney Heath right up there with us. We are 20th for possession with a 45% average, and we're still first for headers won, with a much more comfortable ratio of 65% won now. February was a very good month for us on the pitch, with us drawing 1-1 with Barton, and winning every other fixture that month. But off the pitch it was a really stressful time, with lots of players deciding now was the perfect time to accept offers to leave. So let me do my best to catch you up here. Harrison Foulston left us to join Burnham. Foulston had been a regular starter for us over the last 2 seasons, so this one hurt a bit. Burnham incidentally took Palmer from us as well. First choice goalkeeper Marcus Bald also joins Burnham, having not even been with us a full season. So Rockier, or Rochier, I'm not sure how to say it, the backup keeper that we signed, who I said was going to sit on the bench a lot, he may well see some more action than I thought he would. At least we've got our backup centre-backs right. Well, bad news, they're deciding to leave as well, with Dan Carey-Evans also jumping ship. He would have been one of the players that would have had a chance to shine following all this, but there we go. But the one that really hurts, our star man George Baker Moran has left us to join Averley. I mean, granted, it's a huge step up for him into the National League South, but he's been so important to us, we're going to really struggle to replace his goals. We of course had to react, so I signed Jack Withers, who's a decent centre-back at this level. He's 6'4" with 15 jumping reach. He's got decent non-league experience. But then in the case of me not really fully paying attention to what I was doing, I discovered he cannot actually play for us as he's already played for 2 clubs this season. See you next season, Jack. We signed 35-year-old Ollie Thorne, who's very useful as he can play centre-back, defensive midfield and central midfield, so he's likely to see some game time. Decent stats too. I really like his 13 strength, 16 jumping reach, 11 heading, 13 determination, 14 bravery and 17 aggression, and he's played as high as the National League previously. 6'6" Jason Alexander joins us as our new number 1 goalkeeper. He does look really good for this level, and it really was a relief to replace Marcus Ball so quickly with somebody of a comparable quality. He most recently played for 1874 Northwich. Greg Drummond joins us as an option at centre-back, defensive midfield and central midfield to bolster numbers more than anything. He was previously at Vauxhall Motors. Mitchell Robinson is another centre-back option as we needed depth replenishing there following the recent departures. He last played for Snodland Town, which doesn't even sound like a real place. 6'4" Jay Ford looks to be a very good player at central midfield. He offers us something a little different with his 14 first touch, 11 technique. These numbers really jump out at me, and I think he'll maybe be a bit of a creative force for us down the middle, and I think he'll be getting a fair bit of game time for us. He last played for Coles Hill Town. And Destiny Oladipo is the man we signed to replace the huge Baker Moran-sized hole in the team. He looks to be pretty good, and he should play the target man role well enough for us. We picked him up from Fareham Town. So after all of that, I'm pleased to tell you that we actually reached 100 games of management against Kidlington. We won that game 2-0 with debut goals from Jay Ford and Oladipo. I'm suddenly feeling a bit more positive about the future after that. March was a month that saw another centre-back, Lewis Soroff, leave for Shawbury United, and right wing-back Mark Caballo-Leader leave us for Risborough Rangers. I decided not to rush out and immediately replace them as I was happy with what we had in already. Let's just hope it's enough to take us up as we approach the business end of the season. We had a very successful March with some very good defensive displays and a lot of clean sheets. Maybe the change of centre-backs and goalkeepers was something that needed to happen. We actually got 3 1-0 wins in a row at one point. We rounded out March with a 2-1 win over Leighton Town. Oladipo got himself on the score sheet with a nice header. I think he'll fit in just fine around here. Jay Ford continued his really good start to life as a Biggleswade United player with a really nice goal. He's actually scored 4 in 7 from midfield. This guy can play a bit. And I hate for this to be a bit of an anticlimax, but we actually secured the title in March. So we haven't really been top this season, and we'd been chasing for the majority, but other teams just seem to hit rough patches and we've stayed largely consistent. It seems teams really struggled with our physical presence. So with that, Tier 7 looms for us next season. We remain 20th in the possession standings, but comfortably first in headers won. The youth intake happened, but as we know, we can only sign players 6'4" and above, which means we were able to sign 6'6" Scottish centre-back Fraser Ireland and 6'5" goalkeeper Danny Lewis. We actually had a Finnish player named Kimmo Koskinen, who's only 5'2". I almost wanted to sign him just to put him next to that 6'11" player we signed earlier. But that would be against the rules of the challenge, I guess. Everybody else was under 6'4", so we couldn't sign them. Them's the breaks. We rounded out the season with 2 draws, a loss, followed by 2 wins. Just for you fans of patterns out there. We beat Rushton and Diamonds on the final day, with that man Jay Ford continuing his great form with a nice goal. Palmer Brown flicked on for Robinson to score a second, all of which means we end the season top of the league on 96 points, and amazingly Colney Heath have followed us up via the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive year. I wonder if they're ever going to stop following us. Backup goalkeeper Rockier bizarrely decided to retire 3 days before the end of the actual season, presumably for attention, or maybe he lost his cushion. We got notified that the stadium capacity has been modified to include 100 seats at a cost of 16.5k, which should be done before the new season starts. We then had the quickest takeover I've ever seen. We hadn't even had rumblings this was going to happen, but on the 24th of April we had a news item saying the chairman was looking to step aside, and then on the 29th of April we found out that a new chairperson called Harry Burgess had taken over. He seems happy enough to keep me, so that's good, although sadly it seems he's not a sugar daddy. Callum Hassan was deservedly signing of the season. He got a 7.21 rating, averaged about a goal every other game, and crucially, he didn't leave us less than a year into his stay to selfishly go and join another team. You're alright by me, Callum Hassan. Revenue was up a lot thanks to the mini FA Cup run. Hassan actually got player of the season as well. Murphy got young player of the season, and Holiday got most assists with 23, and most man of the match with 7. Worth noting that Baker Moran actually scored 28 goals before he left us. But he did leave us, so he's not invited to our little award ceremony. We end the season with 142k in the bank, which should see us through the next season comfortably, so let's aim to get a good summer under our belt and see if we can go up again. Thank you very much for joining me, really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like down below to let me know. subscribe to see more of this adventure, and say hello in the comments. Catch you next time. Bye bye.